Hey, good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack here. It's Thursday now, the 6th day of November, 2025. Great to be with you on this fine afternoon, at least it is where I am. Got a question for you. Do you think we are done for the season? Well, maybe, and statistically speaking, things should start to wind down. However, I saw this post that I made my background thumbnail image out of from our good friend Ben Knoll, and I figured we should discuss and take a look at things as we move through the next several days and even out over the next couple of weeks. And certainly, while we're most interested in the Atlantic Basin, that's most of where my traffic comes from anyway, we're definitely interested in what's happening in the Westpac with a very powerful typhoon in the making. I'll end today's update addressing that. All right, let's get started. First, sea surface temperature anomalies. Now, anomalies do not make hurricanes, right? The difference in something versus, some kind of a background state or an average or a mean, well, that doesn't give you the hurricanes. But you can at least glean from this how warm the water is relative to where we should be. In most of the Atlantic Basin, still quite a bit warmer than average, especially when you look at the tropical Pacific over here. This is much warmer. This is much colder than average. So it stands to reason that, yes, climatologically speaking, normally we'd expect some activity around here this time of year. And just the overall setup, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not going to be surprised if we do get something down in the Western Caribbean and vicinity. And as we zoom in on this, I can point out a few things. By the way, there's the first tiny bit of cold anomaly that has shown up in the wake of Melissa. It took a while, a few days after Melissa's passage, but it gouged out just one little area there. Otherwise, the Caribbean Sea is still running at least 1 degree Celsius warmer than the 30-year average. What else do you notice? Most of the Gulf warmer than average, and the Southwest Atlantic, generally speaking, as well. But it is this area right through here that we normally pay attention to this time of year. Hey, do you know what causes that right there in the Gulf of Tehuantepec? That is because of the wind gap that's down here. It's a gap event. The way the wind is able to blow through, comes off, upwells the water over here. And the TAFB folks at National Hurricane Center Tropical Analysis and Forecast Branch, they forecast that because you do have boats that go through here, marine interests. And if you got the wind blowing strong enough to upwell water that is more than 5 degrees colder than normal, woo, it must be pretty windy down there. They call that a gap event. I might pull that up for you tomorrow and show you as a little lesson or something. Anyway, let's move along. Actual sea surface temperatures, lots of different plots and charts here from Tropical Tidbits. Here it is, and then like I was saying, anomalies don't give us hurricanes. They can tell us maybe how strong a hurricane could be, a tropical cyclone. If the water is much warmer than average, then you know you have a lot more upper ocean heat content to work with, perhaps, and that is certainly what we saw with Melissa. Now, the actual temperatures, this is one of the many charts that's out there, and again, this was from Tidbits, mostly 29 Celsius all through the Caribbean here, a few areas of 30 Celsius just to the west of Jamaica, and this is important for a number of reasons. Number one, it has got to be sultry down there. Seriously, all that very warm water, especially at night. Sun goes down, it's not cooling off very much, I bet. Just yuck. And so there's that. And then, yes, the water temperatures around Jamaica, elsewhere in the Caribbean, or Caribbean, whichever way you want to pronounce it, that's up to you. They are definitely still warm enough, these upper 20s Celsius. And remember, pretty much most of science is in metric. So we're talking about 84, 85 degrees, maybe warmer Fahrenheit. And a good deal of the Gulf, if you look in here, this yellow line right here, I believe that's the 26 degrees Celsius isotherm. So anything around here and south is warm enough for hurricanes to do their thing, generally speaking. But wind shear, dry air, thermodynamics, all that other stuff comes into play. So anomalies and regular old warm water is not enough. You have to have forcing, convergence at the surface, a difluent upper atmosphere, moisture in the mid-levels, all that kind of stuff. And it usually helps to have some kind of a pre-existing feature. So, will that all come into play? Will all of those ingredients come together between now and the end of the month, the official end of the hurricane season? Maybe. And we see some hints here from our good friend, the prognosticator of anomalous weather events, snowfall, and you name it. Ben Knoll, terrific with maps. I love it. And even though sometimes it shows us stuff we might not want to see, it just helps to visualize and to put things into context. So rising air, that's favorable for something to develop in the tropics, is favored, that rising air, across the Atlantic during the second half of November, when there's the possibility of one more chance of a hurricane this season. Possibly. History suggests, another way of saying climatology, that the southwestern Caribbean and west central Atlantic have the highest odds for storm formation this time of year. So as we get towards the latter part of the month and into early December, really the last 2 weeks, most of the Atlantic, the last 2 weeks of November, are going to feature a lot of rising air. And it's that air in the upper levels, that divergence aloft to get the air to converge at the surface, rise up, and then spread out evenly. That is the setup for it. So now we have to watch. We think from all this modeling, right, that this piece of the puzzle will be there. This ingredient will be there. Again, pick your analogy. Puzzle pieces, ingredients, doesn't matter to me. I'm trying to put it all together and see if we can figure out a weather pattern that could give us tropical cyclone activity. So, what about the operational models? Do they show anything? GFS has been on it for a while. It's fairly typical long-term, like way out past the normal 5-day time frame bias, probably convective feedback, so forth and so on. And lo and behold, at about a week's time, we do get something that tries to pop up here near Nicaragua. You go back just a couple of model runs ago, whatever, and you can see it's consistently there. It actually looks like it takes this piece of energy here, brings it into the Caribbean, and the pattern starts to become favorable, and something tries to blossom up. And you look at that, that's about 10 days out. Well, what's the upper levels look like? Well, there you go. And this is where I do find it completely not unrealistic for this to happen, because Ben just posted today that the upper levels should be more favorable as we get through the next 10 days or so. And lo and behold, the operational model of the GFS, back, what was that, on the 5th of November? So yesterday, I forget, there's 4 runs a day. This is very favorable. This upper level pattern matches what Ben was saying today. And that is still there even on today's runs as well. I can prove it to you. So here's the 12Z run. There it is again. Now, not to worry for our lower 48 residents, Florida included, right? Pretty strong upper level winds at the 200 millibar grabbed me. Abound to the north of anything that might get going. Usually in November, anything that develops is going to do something like Melissa, form, and take some kind of a northeasterly trajectory that can sometimes, very, very rare, I want to make that clear, that northeast trajectory can happen so that you do get something into the eastern parts of the Gulf. We'll see. Hopefully not, but, we just don't want to sleep on it. A black swan event, a very low probability of something happening with high impact results, you just don't want to sleep on it. That's all I'm saying. Euro, not having it at all, just to show you. This is last night's run all the way out to, we'll do it to 240 hours as well, but let's look at the upper levels. Do the upper levels match what what Ben was talking about? Generally, westerly, so I botched that. So the answer is no. The Euro does not agree with a big upper level anticyclone. I'm so used to seeing deep easterly flow through here that it was the exact opposite this time around, and I got caught, I got burned. That is some pretty stout westerly flow. So at least at day 10 on the Euro, the upper levels would not be very favorable. So we'll see, and we'll keep watching on it over the next several days, right? What else is there to do? So unfortunately, the image isn't popping up here, but if we click on this, we get an animation. We do have our typhoon out here, Fung-Wong, and boy, look at all those pinks in there, indicative of very cold, high cloud tops. These are some of the models for it, whatever. But what I wanted to show you, and just so you know, this is way out in the Westpac. This is the Philippines over here. This is northern Luzon, right through here. And this is the HAFS, the HAFS, that did so well With Melissa, this is what we call the parent version, so it's kind of a zoomed out version. And you can see what happens with our typhoon here. It moves into the general direction of the northern Luzon area, and then between there and Taiwan over the next 5 days. And probably a super typhoon. That is literally what they call it. That's a real thing. The equivalent of what we would have in the Atlantic Basin of a Category 5. So they've already had a typhoon that went through there that is now making a landfall in Vietnam. More than 100 people killed. This was farther to the south. That K-A-L, I can't remember the pronunciation of the rest of it. So this is the second one coming, within 10 days. So big problems for Typhoon Alley out there. The Philippines, no stranger, unfortunately, to these systems even this late in the year. It's not late in the year for them. All right, so we got a few things to keep an eye on over the coming days. Luckily, though, not much happening right now, which is typical. But all that green, the modeling generally favoring maybe one more window of opportunity, we'll be on top of it for sure. All right, and then you'll know and you'll be aware. And that's a good thing. That's the point. All right, that's it from me for today. Have a great rest of your Thursday. I'll be back tomorrow to do an update for you before we head into the weekend. Until then, again, have a good evening ahead from all of us at HurricaneTrack. I am Mark Sudduth. I'll see you again tomorrow.